Hey, everyone here at the Investing Stuff You Should Know podcast. We have another developer. This is Anthony Walker. Anthony is in the Idaho area. He's a pretty young guy. He's 25, but he and his partner are doing some amazing things, are just crushing the capital space. And I was born in Idaho. I think I've shared that with the audience before. But this kind of thing, as a builder, as an investor, as a somebody from Idaho, so much about Anthony's story and his partner resonates with me. So, Anthony, I'm delighted to have you with us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to join you. I can't wait to jump right into it.
Awesome, man. Awesome here. So obviously gave it away right at the get-go, like, hey, you're 25. You have a close partner in the business as well. Tell
Yep,
us
two of them,
quickly. Oh, two. Okay, my bad. So
two
yeah,
business partners. Yep.
give us the latest on what that looks like and how you guys maybe probably you look like you're near similar age. How did that happen and where did you guys come from?
Yeah, great question. So I have two business partners, and John and John actually confusing. They're actually father son. So that's kind of the idea
Okay,
that.
awesome.
But I met John Jr. I was doing sales here locally, real estate sales, and I had just joined, and I was doing residential, and I got a commercial listing. And when you're first starting, they tell you commercial is this whole different beast, and so they're like, you should co-list it with someone. There's this other young, hungry commercial guy,
Yeah.
and yeah, long story short, I met John. We co-listed it, never sold the property. And we just kind of formed a relationship, and we actually ended up starting that company first. We actually partnered there, started the Inland Northwest team, scaled that. We probably sold just under 100 million in real estate in about 2.5 year period. And then we kind of used that money. And John actually had Cornerstone kind of going, at a very small scale. And it was kind of my dream as well. And I said, instead of being competition, let's just partner and crush this together type idea. So I actually joined Cornerstone. So we have the three partners, and we used our commission money to kind of fund and get Cornerstone to where it is today. So we would, make enough in commissions to hire an employee for, us and Cornerstone type idea. They would do like 50-50 type idea until we, finally got, enough cash flow, enough, raising enough capital where we could make the full transition over.
That's awesome, man. So if I was to jump on Cornerstone website just for the audience myself here, what would I see? What would the title and banner say? Like, hey, this is a brokerage, a commercial real estate development company. What would I see if I jumped on that website? Or yeah,
Yeah.
what's the marketing there?
Yeah, Cornerstones is we do unique investment opportunities kind of in tertiary markets. So you'd find that we develop and buy value add in Idaho, Oregon, and Montana. And we
Okay,
raise capital to do so. So we're looking for LP investors. We always put our own capital in, of course, but we want the scale just like everyone. So to do that, we raise capital.
that's awesome, man. Awesome. So you actually mentioned, which is I think is pretty interesting, and you probably were born with an entrepreneurial spirit. You probably were trying to sell milk when you were a baby here, but you at least officially or semi-officially, you kicked off this entrepreneurial life around 15. So what did you
Yep,
start doing at 15 years old, Anthony? And then of course, like you said, you're 10 years later, you got like literally a decade of experience, which is kind of
yeah,
awesome for a young person. But it's like, well, if you start, when you're 5 or 10 or 15, like you can get a lot in when still be quite young. So tell us that
totally,
journey.
totally. And actually, I would say like before the entrepreneurship started, it was selling Boy Scout popcorn. I'd go door to door, and I sold like $4,500 in Boy Scout popcorn when I was like 10,
Are
11,
you
12
serious?
type idea. I would just go door to door, sit in front of Super One, and I wanted, because you get like 33% of it, and it'd go into your Scout account, but then you can use that for pretty much whatever you want that has to do with Boy Scouts. Buy a new
I
backpack.
see.
And I kind of saw that opportunity. That was my first like sales opportunity where I was like, I'm not nervous. And my dad taught me some stuff, as much as he could, and I'd go door to door and sell Boy Scout popcorn. I'd get people to buy overpriced popcorn to support a good cause. And I went to a good cause, part of it to the Boy Scouts, and it was great. And then yeah, at 15 is kind of when it all started. I bought I wanted to drive. So that's where it all started. I was like, I want to get out of this house and I wanted to drive.
Right.
And my parents were like, you want to drive, you have to buy your own car. Like my parents have always had the, background of, we can support you, but if we buy you everything, then it's going to teach you nothing. So,
Yes.
we'll support you in certain aspects, but like a car, paying for gas, like they just always viewed that as, if I want it, I need to go out and get it. So I bought my first car and it needed a new engine. And so I spent weekends, and my dad taught me a bit. I watched a lot of YouTube, and I put a new engine in it, got it running, and ran great until I drove home from, and then I got a job. Got home and a tree fell on it. And I was like 600 or $700 in this car. It was an old Jeep Grand Cherokee, and insurance paid me $3,000. And I was like, man, that's a value add right there. And so I kind of saw that as I'm going to flip cars. So I
Yes.
started, I bought a Jeep after that, flipped it, made a couple $1,000s. And actually I did that all the way through college and paid for all my college flipping cars. I would just do it. I'd drive it for a few months and put it on Craigslist and sell it and off to the next one. And I'd buy it, go fix it up in a couple weekends and good to go in the next car. So
That's
that's
awesome,
kind of
man.
where the entrepreneurship and sales all started.
Awesome. And you went to college actually after that, and you graduated on your bio here, cum laude from with a finance and marketing degree here.
Yep.
Do you feel like
Mhm.
that? Give us as an entrepreneur, as someone naturally like gifted and then having a bent that way. Give us your thoughts now that you're 25, and has that or was that a good decision to go to college and just kind of crush it, slay it, and then get out, and then you learned a lot, or you didn't learn a lot, it was a waste of time? Give us your thoughts there
Yeah.
for other people,
Great question.
that are
Great
questioning,
question. I get
should
it.
I go to college? Yeah.
Yeah, I get it a lot. And I should preface, when I was in high school, I wanted to start a business even in high school. I was like, I want to do something, but I got down like 3 months before graduation. And, I didn't want to start a local landscaping business. I didn't want to start something like that. I just started learning about like Bigger Pockets podcast, a little bit about real estate. And I thought, if I wanted to start a business, and I come from, a very great family, but, not entrepreneurs. And so I thought, if I'm going to start a business, I need to go get a business degree. So I wanted to stay in state because it was cheap. So I applied to U of I, got in U of I. And I went to college and I got a D on my first test. And I was like, man, is college for me or is college not for me? And that's kind of one of those pivotal moments where it's, you're like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to be all in, especially if I'm paying for it. So from that
Yes.
moment, I graduated cum laude because from that D on that test, I pretty much put my all into it. And I was like, I'm going to get the most out of college I can. And now in the rear view mirror, I remember learning off of a cereal box in my marketing degree. So, and finance, the last semester I learned about the derivatives market. I've never learned about real estate in my college career, not a single thing. Actually, I got asked to speak at a, college lecture because they don't teach real estate in college, at least the colleges that I,
Yeah.
went to. And this is actually a college in Oregon that I was invited to because they just don't teach it. So, in retrospect, I matured a lot in college, and I think that has a lot of say to do, for college. If you don't have, the maturity and you're not ready to start a business at 18, which most people probably don't, it's tough. Then
Yes.
college is a great place to kind of find yourself and dedicate yourself towards something, learn a structure, get away from your family and all that stuff. But if you're going there just for the sole knowledge and you think that's going to carry you on in life, then you're not going to achieve much that you really want to. And the biggest thing that I would say that, I was given this advice as a freshman and I took it to heart was the purpose of college is learning how to learn. So if you can get out of college or you can do anything in life and you can learn how to learn, so you can watch a YouTube video, you can read a book, you can take a subject and actually learn it yourself, then that's going to teach you the most in life. And if you can get that from college, then it's well worth it because that's probably one of the most useful skill sets you'll ever have.
Yeah. And then getting a little more pointed there, did you feel like you learned how to learn? And that's something that I actually took away from my engineering degree was like, hey, I learned how to, I say I learned how to think like an engineer. You can learn to think like a lawyer or an attorney. There's an engineering perspective. There's there's all these different professions out there. And they teach you how to think in certain ways, which is phenomenal. For your case, did you feel like you took away some practical,
Yeah.
I guess, methodologies how to learn?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. But again, I dedicated myself toward it. So, a lot of my friends didn't dedicate it. They were just there to get through college and have some fun. I dedicated myself toward learning.
Yeah.
And so, for example, I actually was doing a marketing and entrepreneurship emphasis. And, my last semester, I could graduate a semester early, or I could pretty much, take a couple extra credits and get another degree in finance. And I had really taken no finance classes
Oh,
besides
okay.
prereqs. And so my last semester, I took like 6 classes and got a finance degree. But really coming from like, I'm a numbers guy and, I'm a chief investment officer today. So like, I love numbers. So of course, jumping into it wasn't that scary to me, but I jumped into it, learned how to do it, and was, top of the class in finance. Like I was beating people who've been studying finance for the last 3.5 years. And I was taking tests and getting A's and B's on them, and beating out the rest of the class that last semester. And because it's like, I knew how to learn. Like I knew how I took tests, I knew how to
Yes.
study, and I knew how to perform well. And that's just something I learned from the last 3 years of learning how to, teaching myself how I learn.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Um, so now that we've started, so thank you for that, yeah, extensive answer.
Absolutely.
That was I think people will get, especially younger folks, will get something out of that, and hopefully
Right.
some guidance and some wayposts in life. Like, hey, you know what? This is like what you're gonna get out what you put into it, and there's
Absolutely.
lots of different ways of doing it. So, but now within Cornerstone Capital here, so that did you start that right after college, or what did that look like?
Yeah, so I graduated college, and actually at the time, I'd read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I probably listened to 500 hours of Bigger Pockets podcast. I was obsessed during college. That's the other thing is, I'm a person that goes to the gym and I'm listening to podcasts, not music, because I want to learn, and I still do that today.
Yes.
And but my thought at the time was, I'd go start a tech company, make a bunch of money through tech, because I was doing internships at different tech companies, and they're profitable companies. So I thought, I would start a tech company, eventually sell that or take some money and then invest into real estate. And so I moved to Missoula, Montana, actually worked at a little local startup company, and my first salary was $36,000 a year plus a 10% bonus if I performed well. And at the time, we've seen a lot of inflation the last, couple of years, but at the
Yeah.
time that was a decent income for that.
Oh.
So I was in Missoula, Montana. I was in Missoula, Montana, and I was making $36,000 a year. That was my first salary, plus a 10% bonus if I performed well. And at the time, that was a good income for the area. Inflation has really changed those, kind of metrics. So since 2020, since COVID, and in our areas, we've seen exponential growth. But I was sitting there, and I was bored out of my mind. I was sitting in front of a computer, and I was getting, everything done in 20 hours in a 40-hour week. So I was again listening to just podcasts over and over, and just bored. And I got home one day and I was like, you know what, I'm done. So I put in my 2 weeks notice, and I said, you know what, if I'm going to start a business, I want to live where I want to live. And I love Coeur d'Alene, so I moved back to Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah.
Actually, I never lived in Coeur d'Alene. I lived up in North Sandpoint, but I moved to Coeur d'Alene, and I absolutely love it here. And that's when I kind of started. Actually, I went and worked for someone for free for a little bit to learn his business. And he ended up paying me $10 an hour to help manage his portfolio of real estate. This guy never made more than $70K a year and owned 220 single family rentals that he had bought all at property tax auctions through the last 50 years. And so I was making $10 an hour, living in a bedroom for $300 a month, and just learning everything I could about real estate.
Yes.
And I learned about what a real estate agent does just through kind of the process of learning through him. And he didn't love real estate agents. He never bought things through real estate agents really, unless it was his own residence. So, he wasn't a real salesy guy, but I'm like, I'm good at sales. So I got my real estate license, and that's kind of where my career in sales launched, was, after just learning everything about investing first.
Awesome, man. So now that the companies, you've seen some success in the company here, you have focused on, and I've seen some of your posts on the social media there. You do value add assets, but then also you're also working on new development. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say our primary focus right now, and so I should preface it with, these tertiary markets have been they're difficult to develop in if you haven't done, Coeur d'Alene, Montana, Bend, Oregon area, because there's limited land. The cities don't really like to grow. And so, but it's also brought
what do
a
you
lot
think
of
that is?
people.
What do you think that is? Why do cities, and everyone have their
Yeah,
own preconceived
you have the
ideas of what that
locals,
is?
yeah, you have the locals that just don't want to see it grow. They want to keep the beautiful town. And so they push as hard as they can to slow down growth, which ultimately leads to terrible growth. And a lot of times, more sprawled out growth. And then eventually they have to come back together and do more density in the downtown areas. And it's hard to witness, because in my, I love Coeur d'Alene. I don't want it to change. Of course, I want this beautiful little town, but I know it's going to change. I
Yeah.
just think we have to grow in a smart way. And the cities and the locals who don't understand development don't want it to grow at all. So they just try to hinder any sort of growth in these tertiary markets. But that's great for developers, because, it just puts up a pent up demand. There's only so much supply out there, and there's only so much supply that can be in these markets, in the short term, while stuff has to get annexed into the city, land and whatnot. And that's why we like them, along with, they have great quality of living. Every single place we develop in has, they've all probably been in the top 100 best places to live in America, because they're just beautiful towns, roughly 50 to 100 to 200,000 people.
That's
So
awesome, man. And
Yeah.
so then when you look, so like this is kind of your niche is this, like you said, the tertiary markets in that area, and that's a beautiful, beautiful area, or a beautiful, it can be. And there's obviously spots that aren't so good, but there's a lot of real natural beauty up there.
Yeah.
But so then your approach has been, how have you been making the numbers work? Is just simply like when you find that you source the land, and just because the upside in a development deal, it's so
Yep.
tremendous that most of the numbers work all the time, or lay out the
Yeah.
thinking why that works in those markets, and you can be confident that you can get the provide your investors the returns that they're seeking.
Yeah, great question. And it's tougher to do in value added, especially the last few years, because, since COVID happened in Seattle, Portland, and all of California, it's pushed a lot of investors, even like some bigger institutional investors to our market. And it's, it compressed cap rates. We were, there's some stuff selling in 3.5 caps. It's not really value add, it's already positioned well, but they're going to buy and try to push rents up even more, which is good for us because then it pushes our rents up. At the same time, we have a big institution trying to push rents up, but it's been very hard to find value add. And so we focused a lot on development for that reason, is because we can go find land. If the land pencils well, we always have to buy land at the right price. But
Yeah.
if it pencils well, we have a great developer, we have architects, we have, people that understand construction, we understand construction. So we do, we value add it, or we cost engineer, I should say, the entire project to make sure it fits in the pro forma. We have a ton of contingencies. Typically, we have a 10% contingency on the development, and if all that still pencils, then it still gives a 7, 8, 9% cash on cash return. Then we want to develop it. A lot of times we're able to build new development in that like 6 to 7 cap range,
Yeah.
and in this market, even today it's worth a 4.5, 5 cap. So you have that instant built-in equity as well, which allows us to get paid.
That's awesome. Talk to us about your capital raising experience, Anthony. So we know, how did you connect with your initial investors? And also, just as a teaser for the folks, your capital raising ability as a company has grown, probably, if we graphed it out, maybe an exponential function,
Yeah.
a million or two, and then 5, and then 10, and then now you're at 40, and you're going to hopefully hit 100 here. Talk to us about that growth and the kind of connections and people you started out with, and then that you are currently talking to, and that have fostered this growth, and the people that you're trying to target, are the groups, the entities you're targeting next. So through kind of a
Yeah.
3-part question.
Totally. It has grown, over the years. It's taken 5 years to get to this point type idea. The first raise we did was 1.5 million, and that one was the most difficult, no doubt. It's our best performing asset. We still own it. It was a ground up development in just outside of Missoula, and we did a better split on it. Toughest to raise, but last year we gave a 15% cash on cash return on it.
That's
Our investors
incredible.
love it. But to get to that point, we
What
had to
is that
find
like a 100 unit multifamily, or what did that look like?
no,
What did that
yeah, 34 units. So
34? Okay, no, sorry. I was
yeah.
like, oh, we're going big. Yeah.
Nope. We've started small, and we've done even smaller deals after that type of deal. And we're
Yeah.
growing now. The last couple of years is when we're like seeing that growth, try to do more units. We really believe in our capital raising ability, but it takes time to get there. And the first raise was 1.5 million, and that was calling your old friends, calling people, and even setting up the deal. We had to find the perfect deal because we had to lock something up in time and then raise the capital as well. But this isn't a fun. This is like, hey, find a deal, raise the capital. So the first deal we found, the builder actually owned it, and he was not really wanting to sell, but the broker actually who we hired convinced him to sell it if he built it. So we found the land. He was patient enough because he could build it. Took us, raising capital, calling everyone we knew. We didn't do any sort of marketing. It was finding connections. The broker, Jesse, he's actually our regional partner now. We've just grown a really great relationship with him. He introduced us to some people, and it took a while. We it was $50,000, $25,000 investments. maybe a $100,000 investment, and just like pulling the strings to get there. And then the next one was like a $4 million raise, and again it was like. Those past investors, actually, a lot of those people came to the next one because they believed in our ability at that point. They saw,
Right.
we're actually building this, let's invest in the next one. And then every single investor you get, you have to think of as like a little seed. And if you give them really good communication service and you treat them with, like, we call it the white glove service, then they're going to grow a tree. They're going to tell a few of their friends, and then their friends tell some people. And that's really actually how we've grown to where we are today is completely through referral basis. And then we met a guy named Jim O'Day, and he just, he was the athletic director of University of Montana, and he just knows everyone. So he was willing to kind of share with his network and has been continuing to share with his network, the ability of what we do. And then, so it was $1.5 million, then 4 million, then 10 million the next year, and then 20 million. And then, and now we're at 46 million raised. And this year, in 3 weeks, we were able to raise $5 million, all from past clients or referrals from past clients. So actually, until this year, we haven't spent a penny on any sort of advertising on like Instagram or Facebook and like that. Until this year, we actually just launched a advertising campaign as we just we want to scale it to like, investors nationwide type of deal. It's hard to get Texas investors or, these other investors when you don't have a presence there. And
Absolutely.
so we launched that campaign, and we just launched it. So it's, very much in its infancy. But, this year we have a goal of raising 40 million, basically doubling our business again.
That's awesome, man. The kind of talk to us about the sales. That's what I was where I was going to go next for that question was talk to what you said. You kind of, when you first started working for that one guy for $10 an hour, you realized you had maybe perhaps a sales ability. And I'm not sure if that's your full-time responsibility, because like you said, there's 2 other partners on your team here. What do you think, what in particular about sales is, I mean, essentially is capital raising all sales, or do you think it's partially sales, or what are like 2 elements there that you feel that enables successful capital raising into leverage and gain the kind of trust and credibility you need in the eyes of your LPs or your investors?
Yeah, great question. And it's always, it's transactional. So it's transactional in the fact that like you can't put the transaction in front of the relationship. So when you're raising capital, and the most important part of sales, especially long-term sales, is building the relationship, putting the relationship in there, proving your success. And then, we just had an investor, I've been talking to him for 18 months. He finally committed to investing because he calls me. He's like, I've been on the fence and I've seen your guys' success, but there's something holding me back. And he's like, just run me through these, just run me through like these numbers. And I run them through. He's like, that makes so much sense, Anthony. Like, I'm going to invest. And so, but I haven't been on his doorstep trying to, hey, invest when you're ready. It's building a relationship for the last 18 months that have gotten there. So that's the first thing. And I learned a lot of that in being a broker. I mean, it's like selling a house, when they're ready, you want to be the person that they come to. And that's the most important thing in raising capital is people aren't going to be ready there, especially the last 2 years, they've been making a killing in the stock market or their cryptocurrencies. And why would you take it out when you're making a 50% return there, when you can only make a 20% return in, real estate? And now that things have come back to reality, I'm on constant calls of the opposite of I've lost 40% of my portfolio and I should have been cash flowing this whole time. And it's great. Now we're ready to have this conversation, but I'm the first person that they call because I've been building these relationships for years type idea. So that'd be the first thing is really put relationships over the transaction and don't get mad if they don't invest. The relationship is far more important. And again, I've had other investors take years to invest. I've been telling them since I started this, and they finally invest. And they said no, and then they're finally ready. So I would say that that's the number one most important thing. And number 2 is just not like, I'd say it kind of prefaces to that is not like letting no slow you down. You have to like continue to go. It really is. Everything in sales is a numbers game. Some people won't be ready. Some people will say no. Some people won't like the idea. Some people will say, syndicators are just taking money and they're not worth what they're paying. You're going to get everything in this business, but it's not letting that deter you from your overall goal and your vision and knowing that you actually are delivering a good product to your investors. And just not letting that and just continue to talk to more people, continue to market, advertise, whatever you're doing, and just let it be a numbers game. The more people you talk to, the more you get your name out there, the more people are going to know about your company and the more money you're going to raise.
I like that. Nice, crisp, bullet pointed list here. I will ask you a personal question here, Anthony. What of all the, obviously you guys have achieved, amazing success and, in a relatively short amount of time. It's been hard, 5 years is a long time, but also it's, relative to life and nature, that's a very short time. What do you think personally has been some of the characteristics or some things that you do to achieve success, the success you've seen?
Yeah, great question. And it's having a great support system around you. So having, friends, family, at the minimum, they might understand what you're doing, but they support you, surrounding yourself with people that really want the best for you is one of the, most important things that you can do. And then discipline and having good habits. So discipline, you're going to have to wake up early. You're going to have to stay late at the office when you're first getting started because, you're going to have to wear, and I still to this day wear multiple hats. I'm doing marketing along with chief investment stuff, along with 35 other things. Can I pause for just 1 second? I have to plug this in. Sorry about that. And so with discipline, you have to have the discipline to wake up early, stay up late. You're going to wear multiple hats. I'm still wearing multiple hats to this day. I'm doing, chief investment officer. I'm underwriting deals. I'm looking at analysis. I'm trying to find the best investments for our investors, along with, I want to build this brand. I want to build my personal brand. So I'm running that hat. So you have to be willing to be disciplined to do that and continue to learn and wake up every day. Even days are going to be tough. Sometimes you're not. And you have to use discipline over motivation, because discipline is going to get you from point A to point B. Motivation is going to leave you going up and down every single day, and it'll eventually wear out. And then habits. I'm a big I go to the gym as soon as I wake up in the morning. I try to eat a healthy diet. I try to keep clean on my body, because then I know my mind's going to work the best, and I want to live for a long time. None of this is worth it unless I'm healthy. And also, I think that the gym's a great thing for me. I'm not a bodybuilder, but it gives me a time to I listen to podcasts, and B, it just gets your body moving and feeling good. And then when you feel good, you perform better.
Awesome, man. What is clearly, like you just said, you just launched because you're trying to grow and scale. That's the vision going for the next year or two here. What is the best place and way for people to get in connection with you? I know I see you on social media, especially LinkedIn. What other channels are there that you like to connect with people, and for people to know more about what you're doing and where you're going?
Yeah, great question. So we LinkedIn's great, Instagram, Anthony Walker 18. And then we have a weekly newsletter. It's called the Wealthy Habits Newsletter. And if you subscribe to that, we're actually going to be launching a Wealthy Habits podcast, where we kind of go into real estate, but also mindset, discipline, and kind of those things I was talking about, just being a better overall human being.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So everyone here at the Investing Stuff You Should Know, thank you for listening to another great episode here. Obviously, Anthony's story, he and his team, his two partners, it's amazing, exciting. You can just see what happens with dedication, focus, and grit in a relatively short amount of time. So it's an inspiring story. It's not just the big markets like Texas or Florida where you can be successful. Here, Anthony is crushing it, and his team are crushing it up there. And like you said, in Oregon, Idaho, and Montana area. So until next time, thank you for everyone for listening. Of course, give us a thumbs up, a like, a comment, share the word here of this amazing podcast. And of course, check out Anthony's podcast when he releases it, and subscribe to his newsletter.
Yeah.